I'm home, and I'm glad to be home. My daughter and I were out at the DJNTV DJ convention, which is part of Photo Booth Expo at South Point in Las Vegas. And I'll tell you, I've never worked harder at a show before, but it was a good show. So yeah, we're normally when I do like some kind of presentation or something, I kind of chill out that day until it's time to present. No, I was working the chill lounge up until like 3:30, and then I left to go to the Brunswick room at 4 o'clock to give the presentation, which you're about to see. And I don't even know if it's any good or not. It's a lot of work to attend these shows. So anybody who attended, thank you so much for attending. Anybody who worked on the show, thank you so much. If you see any posts out there from this show, especially from the people who worked it, give them some love, because this was a grassroots effort. Everybody was just in there giving their all and trying to put together something cool for us DJs. So anyway, that's it. I hope you enjoy it. And we'll get some more videos up later on this week. But until then, here is creating your event soundtrack.
For our final presenter, this gentleman has been out there helping DJs longer than pretty much anybody, with YouTube videos and with how-to stuff for a very long time. He is, those of us that have been trying to do YouTube videos, we started out and we found out that this guy's been doing it way longer than the rest of us. He's got a lot to share, and he's got a big heart. So if you wouldn't mind, please give all your attention and your love and your hearts to Mr. Brian Red. Come on.
Hey guys, is this thing on? Yeah, that's cool. Hi. Hi. How you doing? Good. So have you had a long day of seminars? You ready for something easy and fluffy and simple? That's what I got today. We're going to do something easy because it's been a long day for you guys. Who knows who I am? Put your hands up if you know who I am. Let me know. Who doesn't know who I am? I'm just, who the hell is this guy? Okay, for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Brian, and I'm a YouTuber. I'm also part of the Disc Jockey News team. And, you know, what I want to do today, first of all, is not say anything that's going to upset or offend or make anyone uncomfortable. I kind of have a mouth on me, but I'm going to control myself. Second thing, I want to address the pink elephant in the room. I was limping a little bit. Some people may think that I may be drunk. Not the case. I had a stroke about 9 years ago, which unfortunately caused a cognitive disorder due to an explosion in my brain. So, with that being said, if I do say anything to upset or offend or make anyone uncomfortable, I have a medical excuse. Alright? Now you know who I am. So, by the way, this particular discussion today is creating your event's soundtrack. Now, the first thing I'm going to say about this is I didn't pick the topic. John Young did. About 2 weeks ago, I get a message on Facebook that says this, all right? You are now on the schedule to talk about creating your event soundtrack. In this session, Brian S. Red of our Tuesday night live show on DJNTV will dig into thoughts on music selection and programming for your events. Brian's musical knowledge and passion, John with us, for unique, forgotten tracks assure you, not, you know, you're assured this is going to happen. That's big promises right there. This will be a fun session of songs you might be adding to your future sets. No pressure. Now, in John's defense, I understand why he did this. On our Tuesday night shows, we talk about music a lot, but what we don't do is randomly just blurt things out. It's not like we're talking about lighting and all of a sudden I'm like, did you know that Kenny Rogers was in the psychedelic rock band in the 1960s called The First Edition? It doesn't work that way. Things come up and then we just riff on it. So with that being said, this needs to be a conversation. All of us are going to participate here. I'm not going to lecture you. I hate seminars. I hate lectures. We're going to have a conversation. Is that cool? We're just going to talk? All right, cool. So everything that I talk about today isn't necessarily going to be mobile DJ specific, because I just love music. So we're going to talk about all kinds of music. whatever happens to come to mind for you or me, we're gonna talk about it. Just because we're not using it at a gig doesn't mean that it's not good music. 'Cause, you know, that's why I'm a DJ. I'm a DJ because I love music. How about you guys? Music people? Everybody? We're gonna get along really well. We're gonna get along fine. So like when I'm doing a wedding, right? You've gotta do the ceremony, you've gotta do the cake cutting, you've gotta do grand entrance, you gotta do all this crap, right? Okay, I'll do this stuff as long as at the end of the day I get to DJ for the audience. That's my dessert, and that's why I'm doing this. I really don't care about cake cuttings. But I do it because I have to. I do have notes here. Now the first thing I want to talk about, I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, is current chart music. So, are you guys playing a lot of new stuff?
Yes.
No?
Yes.
Go ahead. Raise your hands. Who are you? Yeah, you playing a lot of new stuff?
Yes.
What kind of stuff?
I don't know. Billie Eilish and Lizzo and
Sure.
that kind of stuff.
What kind of events?
Opry ski markets.
I'm sorry?
Opry ski. I live in a ski resort.
Okay, so you're doing, it's for a younger crowd then.
Yeah.
Yeah, how about wedding people? Yeah, what do you got?
Because of what's his name was talking about it, TikTok. Some of the TikTok tracks are now the one they want to make a video and part of their whole little snippet.
Right.
So now you gotta start playing. Well, I mean, not have to play, but it does put the icing on the cake for the
Sure.
wedding, and it does get a good look on you and videos and content. So yeah, like following the trend. If they're on the trend, then you jump on the trend too, right?
Sure. What I'm finding is personally is that although that, and I'm doing just full disclosure, I'm doing primarily wedding receptions and corporate events. I'm not doing a lot of school dances and things like that. I do them, but that's not my primary focus. But having said that, people like new music, but they don't like a lot of the new music. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So what do? There's like this big gaping hole in the evening where normally I would be playing top 40, like new stuff, but I'm not playing it because, I mean, what is it? I do Lizzo, I do Old Town Road, and I'm done. So what do I do with the rest of that? How are you guys handling that?
Play 2090s.
Yeah.
Work backwards. Take the 10. If now, then take 10 decades back behind
Yeah.
and kind of like everybody knows what 50 cents in the club's like. They know that,
Yeah.
right? You know what I'm saying? So, or if not, when Drake just came out, you take 5 years up on that, and you do
Right.
that. So you work backwards from where you are now, because then, if not, just ask the bride and groom, oh, when were you 21? And then you pin there 21, and then you think about, oh, that means they like this music when they were getting drunk at 21. You play that, and then boom, you're good.
You know, to me, yeah, go ahead.
So how we do it is we still kind of like the eras, because at the beginning of the evening, you got the older generation,
Sure.
and as the night goes along, they have a tendency to leave and go home. So we saw it like the 80s, and then we move on up, and then by the time we get to the end of the night, it's more into all the new music and all the hip hop.
Sure.
So by then, you got all the young kids, and the older generations usually have left by then.
Can I tell you a quick story about that that's not necessarily directly related to what we're doing? Is that cool?
Sure.
So what he's saying is exactly what I did for years. I would come into an event, like a wedding reception or a corporate event, and I would do the older people music first, right? I'm gonna say older people. Stuff for, I don't know, mom and dad and grandma and grandpa, stuff that everybody knows, kind of the family variety stuff. And then there would be like a garter bouquet toss, like maybe halfway through the evening. And then I would play the newer music, right? And about 10 years ago, I couldn't put my finger on it, but something changed. Because at 11:30, Grandma was coming up to me saying, "Why aren't you playing the twist?" I'm like, "Why are you here? You were supposed to be gone after 10. Like, isn't it bedtime? Don't you have church in the morning?" So, I'm telling you, for the longest time, I couldn't figure out what was different. Because I wasn't really changing up my sets that much. And I recently figured it out. And we're going off topic here, but I just want to share this. I changed speakers about 10 years ago. I used to use passive system. I used a pair of, I don't know what they were, JBL 115s or something like that. I had Crown Macrotech amplifiers. I had 18-inch subwoofers. About 10 years ago, I got a set of my first powered speakers. They were RCF 312As. Gorgeous speaker. One of the best sounding speakers I've ever owned. And walking around the room, I noticed that what I was doing with these smaller speakers at events like wedding receptions, I was keeping the dance floor hot with sound. So if you were on the dance floor, it sounded good and full. But if you went back into the room, you could have a conversation. You could sit at a table and you could talk to people. I think what I was doing was chasing the old people out of the room with my loud system, with the bigger system that I had. That's the only thing that's changed, and I ended up keeping my audiences there longer. Because when things are too loud, kind of like, okay, I was here last night, it was a little loud for me. I couldn't talk to anybody, I had to scream. So I would go outside and talk to people. It was chasing me out of the room. And that's just an observation that I made. And I just figured it out. It took me 10 years to figure out what I was doing, but that's what it was. Scott.
Yeah, you're talking about finding out, going back to weddings, what the bride's parents listen to is naturally sometimes what the bride listens to because they grew up with that music.
Yeah, it's the kind of stuff mom's playing in the car. Yeah, I mean, my kid's here, she knows exactly.
And then I walk around and talk to people too.
Yeah, that's a big one. Just to kind of talk to people and find out what they like. To me, I mean, going back to what we were talking about earlier, Miley Cyrus's Party in the USA came out in, what, 2009, right?
Yes.
To me, that's a top 10 hit. I treat it like a top 40 hit, a current top 40 hit. So I go back, I try to only go back about 6 years, but sometimes I have to go back a little further. I treat all that stuff like top 40 music now. I used to treat things that were 10 years old as a retro thing, but not anymore. I'll mix those in with Lizzo and Old Town Road and whatever, and Bruno Mars. So that's just how I handle it. I didn't want to like harp on the new music too much because I didn't want to be a downer because I know some people are just trying to have fun with it. But what I really wanted to talk about were regional tracks. So where is everybody from? I know you're from Florida. Where are you guys from?
Texas.
Texas.
Colorado.
Colorado.
Hawaii.
Where?
Hawaii.
Hawaii. That's awesome.
Fargo.
Fargo.
Michigan.
I know Jim's from Indiana.
That's right.
Virginia.
Seattle.
We're from all over the country. That's pretty cool. And we probably have somebody from Canada in here too, right? No Canadians? Good, I don't like them. Keep those Chinooks out of here. Now, the reason I ask this is because, you know, at your events, do you play regional tracks? Are there songs that are just really hot in your area that you feel like you need to play?
Yes.
Anybody?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm from Jersey, but my company's from Florida, so I'm born and used to like listen to like Bon Jovi and Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah.
When I moved to Florida, that didn't go as well as I thought it would go.
Sure.
So I learned that they like more of the Garth Brooks or the Luke Bryan, stuff like that.
So you're in like northern Florida?
Yes.
Yeah, because when you get further to southern Florida, it becomes like freestyle, right?
Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Bass.
1 hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. Leonard Skinner.
Leonard Skinner.
Yeah, that's Gainesville, Florida. That's what Tom Petty, Leonard Skinner, Minnie Riperton.
Yeah.
How much do I know about Gainesville, Florida? Isn't that scary? I'm not even kind of from there,
Gators.
but I know.
2 Live Crew.
There you go. Miami Sound Machine. Anything freestyle. Anybody else want to tell us about your regional tracks that you have? Yeah.
The Bay Area weddings love Mac Drake. I don't know if anybody plays any of that around.
Yes.
We have a rapper named Mac Drake from Vallejo.
Okay.
That's where I'm from.
Right.
And Sacramento, I mean, just recently, within 150
Sure.
miles around, they always love that at weddings.
Yeah.
When they come to Hawaii too.
Yeah, what's up in Hawaii? What's the regional stuff there?
Well, Hawaii is very trendy as far as top 40 music, so anything top 40 on the radio, yes. It took a while for Lizzo to hit into Hawaii, but
Right.
I would like to say in the wedding market that it's a little bit harder, but as far as you do more youthful events, younger club crowd, college night, because of the social media, anything popping on social media, then you get it.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, when it comes to regional tracks, I think about local sports teams. There's always that song that your football team plays when it's a touchdown.
Anderson ran for Virginia Tech,
Yeah, exactly. Whatever your sports team plays when there's success, whether it be in baseball or football. That's big where I live. I don't know, either the Brewers or the Packers. I'm not a sports guy, so it's either a home run or a touchdown, they play that one. Yeah. It's also like artists or bands from the area, right? So what are some of the artists and bands where you guys live? Like people who are like from your hometown or from your area?
Bruno Mars?
Who?
Bruno Mars?
Bruno Mars from Hawaii?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Now I know. See, we learned something. Did you guys know he was from Hawaii?
Yep.
See? Well, one guy did, but nobody else did. So we learned something.
My classmate in high school.
So I'm from Milwaukee, all right? So, just for fun, if I showed up at your hometown and I was in the audience and you wanted to play a track to shout out to me, what track would you pick? Just don't Google this, just think about it. What would you play for me? From Milwaukee. What the hell's going on in Milwaukee? Nobody.
Laverne and Shirley theme.
There you go. No, that's funny, but you know what? I think he's onto something. Because when it comes to these regional tracks, it's one thing to play them at home. It's one thing to play what the local sports team likes, or who the local successful band was that made it big, or whatever the case might be. That's one thing. Like, okay, Steve Miller is from Milwaukee, but he really didn't find success with Steve Miller Band until he moved to Los Angeles. All right. LeBarrage is from Milwaukee. Who cares? Jeffrey Dahmer's from Milwaukee. Unfortunately, didn't record any songs. So what do we got left? We got Happy Days. We got Laverne and Shirley. But we have the Violent Femmes. Let's turn this on. You guys know Violent Femmes?
Yes.
Yeah, they still live like a couple miles away from me. They still live in town. So they're like a really hot band in the area. And I can play a Violent Femmes track at an event and people will lose it. They'll go out and dance. But I guess that's popular everywhere, right? You guys can all play like Blister in the Sun or something, right?
Yes.
Yeah, pretty popular song. But see, I don't expect you to know that. If I went to Fargo and I was an attendee at an event, I wouldn't be upset that you didn't understand that Violent Femmes were from Milwaukee. But if you were going to give me a shout out and you played the Laverne and Shirley theme, that would be so cool. Because I think people like it when you recognize them at an event. You know what I mean? Just a little shout out. It doesn't have to be like just right on the money accurate, but just an acknowledgement that we know you're here and we know that this might be a song that could be something that reminds you of home or something that just kind of gives recognition to where you live. So, for instance, let's play a little game here. Tell me where you live and I'll tell you what I'd play and you tell me if it would go over well or not for you. So let's say you came to Milwaukee and you are from?
Washington State.
Washington State. I would play Nirvana.
No.
Well, would you get mad at me if you came to Milwaukee and I played a Nirvana song for you?
No.
No.
Okay, I could also play Heart.
Yeah.
Would that be better?
Yes.
Probably.
Okay, next.
Houston.
Houston. You know, anybody from Texas, I'm just going to play Easy Time. And I figured nobody could get mad at me. Yeah. Virginia, Country Roads.
That's what.
Well, it's a Virginia. See, I don't know. So, I don't know that.
Carolina.
Huh?
North Carolina.
No.
Shag.
Shag.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, I suppose, oh, Carolina. Yeah, you're right. I didn't think of that.
Oakland.
Oakland. You know, the first thing that comes to mind is MC Hammer. I know that's terrible. That's the first thing that pops in my head.
Boston,
Pardon?
Massachusetts, Boston.
Boston. Okay, we can do Boston. We can do the Cars. We can do a lot of things. Everybody's from Boston.
Aerosmith.
Aerosmith, yeah. So what would be cool, like the Cars or Boston? What would?
Boston. I didn't even know the Cars had any connection to Massachusetts.
You're kidding me. So, but you know that obviously Boston is no, so we'd be good there.
Illinois.
Well, where in Illinois?
Quincy.
You see, like if you were from Chicago, I'd do house music for you.
5 hours.
Or I could do, huh?
5 hours southwest of Chicago.
You got me. And that's terrible, but see, that's the point. Sometimes we kind of instinctively know what we can play for somebody from a certain region. Sometimes we don't. And I think it's a really good idea to kind of figure out who's in your audience. Just like if you want to give them a shout out, sometimes your client's going to tell you. Sometimes it's a situation where it's like, all right, I'm from here, but my fiance's family is from New York. Now I know that. I've got part of the crowd from New York, part of the crowd from Wisconsin, and I can kind of research a little bit, find out what they want to hear. Sometimes it's more extreme than that. I did a wedding in November, and the bride was from the area. The groom was from Nepal. How many of you can find Nepal on a map? Be honest, without looking. Okay, I had to look, because I wasn't sure. I kind of thought I knew. It's kind of next to India, okay? It's not like incredibly far away from like New Delhi, but I'm sure it's far enough away from New Delhi that it's quite a drive or a flight, but it's kind of like India, all right? And she said, look, he'd like to give you a list of songs. And, you know, what you can get, great. He'd like to have you play it for his friends and his family that are coming in from Nepal. If you can't get it, that's fine. So I got the list. And it was a lot of kind of like older classic tracks. But there was some Bollywood on there. You guys know Bollywood?
Yes.
Yeah. For those of you who don't, it's kind of like musicals and done for people from India.
Yes.
And they're really hot. And the crazy thing about Bollywood is that the songs they sing in musicals are like big hits over there. And there's big dance numbers and it's like Grease, right? It's like that hot, right? But it's happening all the time. Bollywood is a huge industry over there. So I'm singing Bollywood and I'm seeing all these tracks he's requesting. Some of them are like new tracks, and they're almost like EDM, like with the Hindi language, you know? So I'm playing these things with some success. And I decided to go ahead and try something. Because I'm not an Indian DJ, obviously, okay? But there's one particular track that's really good. And let me see if I can say it. Mundian Kubaki. Does anybody know it?
Yeah.
It translates to Beware of the Boys. And it's by an artist called Punjabi MC. Jay-Z sampled it. Yeah. But the original. So it's basically, it's got the sitar in it. And then in the background, if you listen really close, it's the Knight Rider theme. It's a really cool song, right? But they didn't ask for it. And I thought, you know what? I think they dig it. If they're into Bollywood and all these tracks that I think would be pretty popular, let's try it. We should have security. It went nuts. They went crazy. And they thought it was so cool that I recognized that this is something from their culture or something that they were familiar with. I wasn't prompted to do it. It wasn't requested. And I really got a lot of props from that. And I felt good about it because I was able to recognize them and not just play off of their list, which was kind of boring, you know? So that was fun. But I don't know. Sometimes a really good way to find out where people are from is, well, ask the client. Is anybody coming in from out of town? And that's a big question I ask when I'm doing a consultation. I'll say, how many people are local? How many people do you feel like are coming in from out of town? If they say, it's like, maybe 3/4 of the people live here, 1/4 of them are coming in from out of town. It's like, okay, where are they from? And then they'll give me a list. Sometimes it's down south, sometimes it's Texas, West Coast, sometimes it's Europe. And I'll keep that in mind when I'm putting my music together for people. But another way to do this, and this happens a lot too, is just to go out and talk to people, like drink cocktails or dinner when you're not doing anything else. And just see where people are from, talk to them, find out what they like. And that's been really helpful. I've learned a lot about my audience that way, just simply by doing that. And by the way, if you ever get a weirdo track that they want to hear, like this is a regional track, and you don't think you're going to get a lot of dancers for it, that's a wonderful time to play it, like during cocktail or dinner. Sometimes you can squeeze those in. And I do that a lot if it just doesn't seem appropriate for dancing. Anybody got any questions? Yes?
Sometimes when we do weddings for people that are, can't think of the word, they're not from America, right?
Sure, they're foreigners.
Yeah, right. Well, I was just trying to figure out how to say it.
They're from somewhere else.
Right, and so, you know, like Greek weddings.
Yeah.
Or Persian weddings.
Sure.
They'll have specific tracks that they want for whatever.
Mhm.
And you talk to them after you listen to the track and you say, you know, I don't really think this will work for dancing. Sometimes what they do is they come back and go, oh, no. Uncle John does a special dance for this.
Right.
You have to play it this time.
Right.
So that's important to be aware of.
Yeah, absolutely. This cultural stuff, I mean, who knows? Yeah, they know it more than I do. And it's, I mean, my wife's Puerto Rican, so I'm really into like the salsa, bachata, merengue stuff. And one thing that I've noticed about, and it's not just Latin cultures, but it's a lot of the cultures. Greek is one, Persian is another one. And I think to some degree, like the Indian culture and the Asian cultures, it doesn't really matter what song you play, just so it's got the right beat.
Right.
You know? I mean, I've been to events before where it's like, yeah, we want to hear some salsa, and I'll throw a track on that I think it's a good track. And then after, they'll dance to it. And afterwards, they'll come up and say, we didn't know that song, but it was pretty good. Can you imagine just throwing on a random English song, expecting the audience to dance to it? No, they gotta have it. It's gotta be familiar to them. But with some of these ethnic cultures, I feel like it's really more about the dance and the beat. It's not so much the specific song. So I think that's interesting. Anyone else? No? Are we done? Oh, Jim.
How has Spotify changed your approach?
Spotify is a weird one because I don't use it. I've got some ethical issues with using it. I'm not gonna throw my ethics on you or expect you to feel the same way I do about things. A lot of people really love it and embrace it. What Spotify has done is really more than anything else, create a little bit of extra work for me, where I have to transcribe everything off of their Spotify list onto an event sheet that, you know, kind of looks like this. But it's nice because I know what specific song they want, but I'm not a subscriber, I don't own it. But yeah, that's where I'm at on Spotify. Yes, sir?
I find that Spotify or even Apple Music or whatever, those playlists, I find those to be inspiration lists. So if I'm doing a wedding and they're like, oh, we'd love you to play some reggae music or whatever the genre happens to be, you can go to Spotify or any of those apps,
Yeah.
and you get a whole list of what's really popular and what people are listening to, and then you might get tracks from there that you
Sure.
never even thought of before.
Well, let me ask you this real quick. How many people like requests?
Yes.
Okay? How many people like playlists?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. See, and that's where I'm at on playlists. Because sometimes what happens is a client will give you this list of like, you know, I don't know, 60 tracks. And you're like, can I play 60 tracks during a 4-hour dance? You know, and other times, okay, let's say that I get a list and I'm playing from it, okay? And I like doing that. I like to kind of have a really good idea what the client likes. I can cherry pick off the list and play these really cool songs and, you know, fill in with audience requests and things as well. But other times what happens is the client looks at this playlist as a playlist. I did an event one time where they asked for reggae for their dinner cocktail. So I was trying to be cool. I was trying to not have an evening with Bob Marley. So I was diving into it, you know. And I found some cool dub reggae stuff and some Jimmy Cliff or whatever, and I was throwing it in there. They had a list of music for dancing. Well, I'll cherry pick off this list for as long as I can. And when it starts to look kind of, you know, I'll stop playing off this list. It's not every track is good, but it's just got some good songs here. So I was playing off the list for probably about an hour and 15 minutes. And then I decided, okay, this is a really good time to follow up with this track. It's a good track, I think they'll like it. I put it on, she immediately committed to me and started yelling at me because that song was on her list.
Yeah, I got it.
So, it could go either way. It could be a great resource to kind of understand what they like and where they might like to go. On the other hand, it could be the kiss of death.
So with the Spotify, you know, we play off of the Spotify list, off no Spotify now.
Mhm.
But we remember that there's other people that's in, in, you know, in the same, you know, in the same, 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 in new guests.
Sure.
That may not like what they have on the Spotify.
Of course.
So we need to mix it, you know, we need to
Yeah.
go back and forth. We use your Spotify account for a while, that's fine, but go back to the other files. That way you got the mix music that sets in for the whole audience.
I think that's wise. I think that's how most of us like to do it. We like to have kind of an idea of what they like, but we also want to be able to play it to the audience in front of us. And, you know, I think ultimately everybody wants a successful event, right? You know, it's like, well, if you're doing anything that's going to be, I guess, counterintuitive to the idea of having a successful event, then don't do it. And sometimes those playlists just don't work, sometimes they do, but it's great if you can interject your own stuff.
So the way I handle the playlist is, I may have got this idea from you, but I have 25 must-play songs that they have to hear at their wedding. They get those are in addition to their special dance stuff. And then they get however many play possible, it's like 50 or something like that. And my disclaimer on that is I let them know that I put this music in an order that makes sense. So a non-danceable song goes into dinner hour or whatever. But then I use that list as an idea of what I should be playing to make them happy with their wedding.
I asked for a dozen tracks myself.
Yes.
You know, give me a dozen songs that, you know, you have to hear, and I'll make sure that your personality is represented in the evening. But let me play around with the songs. Because one of my favorite things to do, I'll get to you, I'm sorry. One of my favorite things to do is something I call one-upping requests. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Well, okay, so what's a really hot track that people ask for all the time? I get Bryce West for Bye 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 by NSYNC. It's on my request list slide. Anybody else getting that one? Because I get it a lot. And when I play it, I get the girls out there. And it's almost like they did a cheer or a dance routine to this in high school or college or whatever. And they're out there having fun, right? Now, it is my humble opinion that one of the greatest songs ever is Everybody by the Backstreet Boys.
Yes.
And it's a better song than Bye 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 by NSYNC. So what I can do with that Bye 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 request is follow it up with Backstreet Boys. And so the energy level goes from about here to about here. And the guys come out for that one too.
You may hate the song, well,
The Fallout from Spice Girls.
Spice Girls.
Wannabe?
Follow that up with the Spice Girls and.
Wannabe is amazing. It's one of my, in fact, when I do.
Even every house.
Yeah, Wannabe by the Spice Girls. I've got no hate on that song. In fact, I will get on the microphone. I'll go dead air when I'm switching genres. And I'll say, this is the greatest song of all time. And I watch their faces. They're like, oh God, what is it going to play? And as soon as they hear, yo, tell me what I want, they lose their shit. It's a great track. I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, I like how you guys.
We're having fun,
I
right?
like how everybody utilizing to using it as a source to help you better your position while you're playing for the dancing part. I'm gonna ask you, how do you balance the bride's requested that yes, you gotta play this, and then she also puts it on don't take requests from the audience while her mom's paying the fat bill to pay you to be there. And
You
she
know-
said, I want you to play some of this.
Whatever they want, they're going to get. I mean, ultimately, I'll try to talk them out of it. But, I mean, right or wrong, guys, this is how I handle it. I'll do exactly what they ask me to do. People are going to come up and say, can you play the keyboard shuffle? I'm sorry, I can't play it. Why not? Well, they just don't want that tonight. Can I play you something else? And what, I'm sorry? No, and eventually what ends up happening is they're going to go up to the client and say, hey, why can't we do the keyboard shuffle? Or whatever the case might be. Now with that, I totally get it. Some songs you just don't want to hear at your event, right? I understand that. You've heard them enough, you don't want to hear it. Maybe there's a bad memory attached to it. Maybe, I don't know, Don't Want to Lose a Thing by Aerosmith was the first dance song for your marriage you had 5 years ago. Now you're divorced and you're remarried. You don't want to hear that at your event, right? But in the case with a line dance song, okay? I've done this before, and it's kind of funny. But I had a groom who absolutely did not want to hear the electric slide. I mean, he was just, you're not playing that at my event. And people kept asking for it. They kept coming up and asking for it, coming up and asking for it. So finally I said to, I think it was the mother of the bride, I said, look, I can't play that song, but there's no reason in the world you couldn't do that dance to Love Shack. And they did it. And the groom laughed his ass off, and it was great. So you can do weird stuff like that sometimes, that's fun. You can kind of make those compromises and get people on your side, and without really calling anybody out, you can have some fun with it, I think.
One thing that we do for those songs where they say they do not want them played, we never want to tell them, the couple has told us they do not want that song played. What I have seen is, at that point, that guest is gonna do a 360 or 180 from us. They're gonna scan the room and find the bride and groom and go and ask them.
Yes.
The DJ just told me,
You said no.
we can't do this.
Right. What's up with that?
I do not want to put that on my couple, so I use DJ Event Planner. So I've got like 6 pages printed with me at the event. I just show them the first page, that's all the contact page. They don't know what's on there. I tell them, look, we've worked with our couple, we've got a good playlist established, let me try to work that in for you.
Yeah.
All of a sudden they're going, I seen that first page, that sheet was full. Give them some time, let them see what they can do.
I got a lot of requests. Yeah. We used to do this thing called the Jedi Mind Trick back in the old days before we were expected to have every song ever done. Where somebody would come up to you and say things like, do you have Motley Crue? It's like, no, but I have Guns N' Roses. How would that be? Oh, that'd be great. So you play it. I mean, you used to be able to make these compromises because back in the old days when we were carrying records around, we didn't have every single song. And people would make those compromises. Now it's harder because they expect you to have that song, that mix, that version. It's just different now. So it's a little tougher to do, but sometimes you can still pull it off and you can make those compromises. Sometimes you can.
I would piggyback though real quick because I'm totally different what you said. So we, first of all, at Havercon Station, we talk to our brides about being a true DJ. So you're gonna give us a list, but that list is just an idea of where we can go. We have to let that know from the door. Like everybody says, you need your top 10, top 20 songs. But at the end of the day, it's not just about the bride and groom, it's also about all these 100 people that came there as well. Right. So you might like one certain genre, because I have done almost any type of event out there. They might like that music, and your guests will be sitting there forever not dancing a lick.
We
right?
have
They
that.
don't like it. So you have to be able to say, listen, I'm gonna look at your list, I'm gonna skim through it, and I'm gonna play it. For request, we get some that don't want inline dance at all, and we don't play them because they just don't like them. But the ones that say, we really don't want it, but how would you handle the request? And I say, listen, if a bride or not a bride, but if a friend or a cousin comes up to me, I'm gonna tell them it's on the list and you have it that's not to be played. But you know what? I'm gonna tell them to ask you. And what happens is, the people will go back. If they're like their brother, their sister, they're really close to the bride and groom, they're gonna go bother them. They're gonna go bother the bride and groom. But it's all for you because you already established that with them. Like, hey, it's on the list, it's not to be played. But let the bride and groom come over and tell you. After a while, their brother Joe, that's drunk, that's like, dude, you gotta play it. They're gonna like, play the song.
There's all kinds of weird scenarios with this, and one that comes up a lot when I'm having the consultation is they'll say, we don't want to hear like a line dance. And you know what? I don't play line dances unless I have to. That's kind of my rule. If for some reason I really need that extra little, like a smart bomb in the old video games, just wiped everything out and made it happen. If I need a smart bomb button to fill my dance floor and I feel like they're gonna do the line dance, fine, I gotta do it because I'm not moving with what I normally have. But I've said to clients before, look, I understand you don't want this electric slider, keep it shuffle or whatever. What if Aunt Betty, who traveled here from Michigan, took time off, got a dog sitter, bought you a gift, a hotel room? What if she wants to come and do a 3-minute dance to electric slide? How do we handle that? And at that point they say, well, someone asked for it, go ahead and do it. We just don't want you to just play it. Yeah. Well, sometimes that's the attitude. You gotta feel it out. You gotta always feel it out, Because it's always a different scenario. And if they absolutely don't want it, fine. I had a wedding a while back where they gave me a list of songs not to play, and it was everything that you would think of playing at an event. I mean, it was like, what am I gonna do? And, oh my gosh, I went like really deep. And I had a great event. I mean, I went real deep with the music, but I'm that guy. And luckily, the groom really enjoyed it, the bride really enjoyed it, which kind of encouraged other people to come out and dance, and it went really well. I did another one time, where it was a couple of college professors. And they gave me no plays, but they gave me like a 2-page don't play list. It was from an agency that I work with, and they sent out this kind of standardized form that people fill out, you know? So I'm looking at this, and I call them, I'm like, look, guys, you know, maybe we should meet and talk, you know, and try to figure this out. So we sat down, and I asked him, so I gotta ask what's up with this don't play list, guys, what's going on here? He said to me, oh, I don't know, they just asked the questions, so we wrote some stuff down. They didn't really have an opinion on it, but they were baited to tell you what not to play because, you know, you asked them. But when it really came down to it, he actually liked a lot of the songs that were on the list. He was just thinking it would be interesting for me to do something a little different than they normally hear at events. And oddly enough, he was from Russia, and he really liked Depeche Mode. Because I guess they got Depeche Mode when the Iron Curtain was up. But oddly enough, they didn't get New Order or any of that other stuff. So I was able to kind of turn him on to some 80s music that he didn't know, and everybody else there knew it. It was a lot of fun. So we wrote this something a little different. So we all handle it our own ways. I really hope that I gave you guys some ideas, or we gave each other some ideas. This was a very fluffy thing because I did a keynote in November. That was a lot of pressure, and I'm just a guy here today, so I don't have to have that pressure. It's just an easy one for you. And I thought an easy one at the end of the day would be fun. So now you guys can break out and go eat, or I think the expo hall is at 5. Yeah, so you guys go see the expo hall. I don't know what time it is, but I'm hoping I'll let you guys out of class early. Thank you.